Hey guys, welcome to Coffee Talk on our retirement adventures. If it's your first time here, I'm Greg. Today I want to share something personal and important to me, and I hope that maybe this story can help someone else. This is the story of how I quit smoking. 19 years ago today, I quit smoking. Now look, I was a 3 to 4 pack Marlboro Red Cowboy Killer smoker, and if I was awake, I had one lit. I was one of those guys that had the large ashtray on my desk, and it was usually full of butts. That's really nasty thinking about it now, but it is what it is. I loved smoking. It was much more important to me than eating was. Now I started smoking much earlier in life, probably 18, 19 years prior, around 1988, 89. And at that time, a pack of smokes was about $1.50. And that was very expensive at that time for me, but I was doing okay and I could justify it, I thought. I started out at a pack a day or so and gradually increased the amount that I smoked each day. But by 2000, I was up to around 2.5 packs per day. And a pack at that time was about $3. Life was good as long as I had a pack of cigarettes. I continued smoking and kept increasing the number of cigarettes I was smoking. Like I said, if I was awake, I had one lit, maybe two. By 2005, I was up to around 3 packs per day, sometimes nearly four. And now, sometime along in here, I'm pretty sure I had COPD. I could not lay down horizontally in the bed because it made me cough so badly. I had to sleep upright in a recliner. Folks, that's stupid. But I still had no inclination to try to quit. I was a smoker, a hardcore smoker. Then one day in March of 2007, I was staying with my oldest son, March 17th. His birthday was coming up on the 19th, and we had a camping trip planned. We were going to go to one of the nearby lakes and camp for a few days, have a birthday party for him. So I was at his house on the 17th. At the time, the place he lived was adjacent to his wife's grandmother's property. He lived above her. There was a hill between his house and his wife's grandmother's house. And my son was wanting to start a garden, and his wife's grandmother had an old Troy built garden tiller at her house that she couldn't use. Her husband had passed away, and it was his. It had been sitting out there rusting for a while. She couldn't use it anymore, and she offered to give it to him, to my son, to use. The only catch was wasn't operational. It'd have to be fixed, and he figured he could fix it. Anyway, on the 17th, my son and his wife had plans to go visit some friends, and they were out, they were gone, so I was there by myself, and I thought I'd go ahead and get started on his tiller. So I went down to the grandmother's house there and started trying to pull the old tiller out of the weeds and get it up to his house to work on. Well, as it turns out, the back wheels that actually propel the tiller were seized up. They were locked up. They wouldn't turn. So I ended up dragging that heavy cast iron tiller up the hill, about 60 yards, I'd say, to his front yard where he had a picnic table set up. After much effort, I got it up there and got my tools out and started disassembling the motor. Anyway, long story short, I got about halfway into it. Started getting dark. Pretty soon my son and his wife got home, and I wasn't feeling well. My stomach hurt pretty bad. I didn't know if I was getting a virus or if I had gotten food poisoning or what was going on. So anyway, I told my son, I said, I'm gonna go lay down and see if I can't get some sleep. Maybe I'll feel better tomorrow. So I went and laid down and couldn't get any sleep, couldn't get any rest. I never got to sleep that night. I was up and down all night. I had a terrible stomach pain that wouldn't go away, no matter what position I tried to lay in. I tried to go to the bathroom, but had no success. I just felt worse and worse through the night. I thought, man, if I could just throw up or something, maybe I'd feel better. No, no luck. All night, I was miserable. So the next morning, I had to go to the hospital to see what was wrong. There was just no way around it. I could barely walk from the searing pain in my abdomen. So I get to the hospital and the ER, of course, I had to wait for an eternity, it seemed, until a doctor finally showed up. And he started pushing and prodding around on my stomach, my abdomen, which hurt a great deal. But then he pushed in one particular area and the pain dissipated momentarily. And I said, boy, that feels much better right there, whatever you just did. And he said, well, you have a hernia. So anyway, I still had to have CAT scans and other tests done. And they said I was going to need surgery. Well, I've had multiple surgeries in my life and I wasn't particularly worried. I just knew at that point I was ready and willing to do whatever it took to get this pain gone and finished. I figured, okay, they'll knock me out. I'll wake up feeling much better, and then they'll send me home, and I'll be back to normal the next day. Well, that's not exactly how it went at all. I spent 7 days in the hospital, the sickest I have ever been in my entire life. I was out of it most of the time, but not out of pain and certainly not out of discomfort. It was the most miserable time of my life. The problem was the hernia had caused a blockage and caused my intestines and colon to be paralyzed, and the bile and whatnot was trying to come back up because it couldn't go down. I spent a lot of time vomiting, some of the most vile stuff you can imagine. I'm sorry if this is not a pleasant subject, but I'm trying not to be too graphic about it. I think they had me on morphine or something part of the time because I spent a lot of time in and out of consciousness, kind of a nightmare dream world. When I was awake, I was trying to go to the bathroom to throw up some more to try to feel better. Anyway, they said they might have to give me a colostomy bag. They said there was like a 50-50 chance my intestines would not recover and start working again. So throughout this whole stay, they kept having problems with keeping an IV line clear and dripping. And almost every day, sometimes twice a day, they had to redo my IV, which is really wearing on me on top of everything else. They also had to give me shots daily in my stomach to prevent clotting. Anyway, finally, around day 6, I was able to go kind of normally again. I was very weak and had been on liquid the whole time. So it wasn't really normal, but at least there were signs that my intestines were working again. But the last day there, I was doing better, uh, starting to get a little bit of strength back. The nurse came in. I was I was still agitated and just kind of in a bad mood, but the nurse came in and started messing with the IV and said she was going to have to reinsert the IV once again. And she started jabbing and poking and trying and, multiple tries. And I said, no, I don't need it. And I was aggravated. And, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the doctors and nurses and what they do. And if you're a nurse, I thank God for people like you. But at that point, I, I had had enough. I was done with the poking and not in the mood to go through that again at that time. Well, my mother happened to be in the room at the time, and she mentioned to the nurse, he's a smoker and he's just agitated because he hasn't had a cigarette this whole time he's been here. The nurse said, "Oh well, why didn't somebody tell us sooner? We can fix that." She left and came back with something. I said, "What's that?" She said, "Nicotine patch." She actually put one on me. And I started thinking, I've been in here for a week without a cigarette. Why on earth would I want to start back on them? If I could go a week without them, I should be able to go without them. I ripped that patch off. And at the end of that day, they finally released me to go home. I still had nearly a full pack of cigarettes. And I kept them. I knew where they were, and I knew I could have one should I decide to. But I was determined that I could do without them after what I'd just been through. Well, that was 19 years ago, and I have not had one since. I can remember a few times, years into being a non smoker, that I would be asleep and dream that I was lighting a cigarette, and I'd feel so bad about it. You know what I mean? Like, why did you light that up? You've done so well. You've gone all this time without one, and now you're back on them. And then I would wake up in a cold sweat and realize it hadn't really happened. It was just a dream. Anyway, I'm here to say I believe with all my heart that God saved me from cigarettes. It was not a pleasant experience at all, but I know in my heart that I would already have died many years ago had I not gotten away from them. I believe God did that for me, and I thank Him for that as often as I think about it. Thank Him for doing that for me. I believe He wanted me here for some reason. I don't know what reason. And maybe it's just so I could share this experience, this story with someone that needed to hear it. So if you're facing an addiction of some kind, think about how much you're hurting yourself and know this, it can be conquered. You can get away from it. There is life after fill in the blank, whatever it is. Hey, I hope this wasn't too graphic or gross. I just wanted to tell my story in hopes it might help someone else. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you down the road.